One day, there was a boy whose dream was to become a brave and great singer, and it was Peter Ilych Tchaikovsky.
Peter Ilych Tchaikovsky was born on 7 May 1840 in Votkins, a small town in Uyatka Governorate in the Russian Empire, into a family with a long history of military service. His father, Ilya Petrovich Tchaikovsky, had served as a lieutenant colonel and engineer in the Department of Mines and would manage the Kamsko-Votkins Iron Works. His grandfather, Peter Fedorovich Tchaikovsky, was born in the village of Nikolaivka, Yekaterinoslav Governorate, Russian Empire, and served first as a physician's assistant in the army and later as city governor of Glazov in Uyatka. His great-grandfather, a Zaporozhian Cossack named Fyodor Chaika, distinguished himself under Peter the Great at the Battle of Poltava in 1709.
Tchaikovsky's mother, Alexandra Andreevna, was the second of Ilya's three wives. 18 years her husband's junior and French and German on her father's side. Both Ilya and Alexandra were trained in the arts, including music, a necessity as a posting to a remote area of Russia also meant a need for entertainment, whether in private or at social gatherings. Of his 6 siblings, Tchaikovsky was close to his sister Alexandra and twin brothers Antolin and Modest. Alexandra's marriage to Lev Davidou would produce 7 children, and lend Tchaikovsky the only real family life he would know as an adult, especially during his years of wandering. One of those children, Vladimir Davidou, who went by the nickname Bob, would become very close to him.
In 1844, the family hired Fanny Durbach, a 22-year-old French governess. 4.5-year-old Tchaikovsky was initially thought too young to study alongside his older brother Nikolai and a niece of the family. His insistence convinced Durbach otherwise. By the age of 6, he had become fluent in French and German. Tchaikovsky also became attached to the young woman. Her affection from him was reportedly counter to his mother's coldness and emotional distance from him, though others assert that the mother doted on her son. Durbach saved much of Tchaikovsky's work from his period, including his earliest known composition, and became a source of several childhood anecdotes.
Tchaikovsky began piano lesson at age 5. Precocious within 3 years, he had become as adept at reading sheet music as his teacher. His parents, initially supportive, hired a tutor, both an orchestrion, and encouraged his piano study for both aesthetic and practical reasons.
However, they decided in 1850 to send Tchaikovsky to the Imperial School of Jurisprudence in St. Petersburg. They had both graduated from institutes in St. Petersburg and the School of Jurisprudence, which mainly served the lesser nobility, and thought that this education would prepare Tchaikovsky for a career as a civil servant. Regardless of talent, the only musical careers available in Russia at that time, except for the affluent aristocracy, were as a teacher in an academy or as an instrumentalist in one of the imperial theaters. Both were considered on the lowest rank in the social ladder, with individuals in them enjoying no more rights than peasants.
His father's income was also growing increasingly uncertain, so both parents may have wanted Tchaikovsky to become independent as soon as possible. The minimum age for acceptance was 12 when Tchaikovsky was on 10 at the time. He was required to spend 2 years boarding at the Imperial School of Jurisprudence Preparatory School, 1,300 kilometers
and 800 miles from his family. Once those 2 years had passed, Tchaikovsky transferred to the Imperial School of Jurisprudence to begin a 7 year course of studies.
Tchaikovsky, early separation from his mother caused an emotional trauma that lasted the rest of his life and was intensified by her death from cholera in 1854, when he was 14. The loss of his mother also prompted Tchaikovsky to make his first serious attempt at composition, A Waltz in Her Memory. Tchaikovsky's father, who had also contracted cholera but recovered fully, sent him back to school immediately in the hope that classwork would occupy the boy's mind. Isolated Tchaikovsky compensated with friendship with fellow students that became lifelong. This included Alexei Apakhin and Vladimir Gerard.
Music, while not an official priority and at school, also bridged the gap between Tchaikovsky and his peers. They regularly attended the opera and Tchaikovsky would improvise at the school's harmonium on themes he and his friends had sung. During choir practice, we were amused. Vladimir Gerard later remembered but not imbued with any expectation of his future glory. Tchaikovsky also continued his piano studies through Franz Baker, an instrument manufacturer who made occasional visit to the schools. However, the result, according to musicologist David Brown, were negligible.
In 1855, Tchaikovsky's father funded private lessons with Rudolf Kundinger and questioned him about a musical career for his son. While impressed with the boy's talent, Kundinger said he saw nothing to suggest a future composer or performer. He later admitted that his assessment was also based on his own negative experience as a musician in Russia and his unwillingness for Tchaikovsky to be treated likewise. Tchaikovsky was told to finish his course and then try for a post in the Ministry of Justice.
In June 1859, the 19-year-old Tchaikovsky graduated as titular counselor, a low run on the civil service ladder. Appointed to the Ministry of Justice, he became a junior assistant within 6 months, and a censor assistant 2 months after that. He remained a censor assistant